Hey everybody, this is Nebulism and welcome to a multi-box for Everquest event. So this will be the first game in a hopefully long series of games that chronologue me playing a 4-box. In this case it'll be a Shadow Knight, Druid, Enchanter, and Mage. And so you can see I'm starting off making a Shadow Knight right now. We're firing up the game and get ready to get started. You know, over I'd say the past several decades, I've made so many different boxes, and I really enjoy this experience. I think that this is my first 4-box. I finally was allowed to do so, and definitely looking forward to doing it. Using IS Boxer, I have a few videos that demonstrate how I have it set up. What we're going to find is we're going to land in the Mines of Gloomingdeep, right? And so the beginning of this starts off with a little bit of narrative for how you get captured and have to fight some nasty kobolds. As far as an old game goes with Everquest, this tutorial zone is actually quite fun. I remember playing EQ before the Mines of Gloomingdeep. You would either start off in Freeport or Chifei or some other location and be playing in those locations at low level, right? Fighting blue orcs and so forth, and those are good memories too, right? I mean, those are you can skip the tutorial and you can just dive right on in. For this whole series, I'm going to instead be going a bit of a slower direction, mainly because one part I want to document it and make some videos of it. Going a little bit more methodically through tutorial zones and going through the hero's journey, I think paces out pretty well. I've done it before in a 3-box maybe half a decade ago, and so there's quite a bit of content. There are a lot of different zones to go through, you know, at least 100 plus quests that'll take a while to document, let alone to finish the hero's journey takes a bit more. We start out here in a little jail cell, right? And you essentially get this little tutorial, how to do a WSAD movement. Like we've never seen that before in any video game we've played up to this point. But in any case, this is where we start. We're supposed to hail this NPC here. I think his name's Arias or Arius or however you want to say his name. I'm sure people will correct me on that one. Again, apologies for mispronunciation throughout this. You know, I think I've developed my own set of lingo for this game over the years, and some of it occasionally gets corrected as I hear the developers talk about the game and so on. You know, an example would be when Shadows of, I think it's Luckland came out, I actually called it Looseland for, I don't know, 20 years or something like that before, I guess, being corrected. You talk with the guard, he sends you out here, he's going to act like a little mercenary anyways. You fight the jailer, I'm pretty sure it's impossible to die here with Arius helping you. And you get a key, you give it to him, boom, you level. It's time to have some fun. You know, there are going to be a few little pauses as we get going here, primarily because I have 3 other characters. You don't see them on this screen being controlled mostly. I mean, there are a few little hints here and there that you'll see me doing a few things like broadcasting and so on. But so there might be occasional pause, especially in this beginning where I'm setting up. For the most part, though, I filter those details out and trim them out so you're not waiting too long. Getting started, generally speaking, you go through this little process where, you know, obviously you set up your user interface, get the options going, which will see me make these choices, get the hotbars set up, etc. And then from there, you're going to talk to a few of the different NPCs. This guy gives an actual achievement, which will be presumably your first achievement in the game. From there, you can then talk to Arius and walk around the camp, communicating with maybe 6 or 7 NPCs. Reward box pops up, get that experience. You know, that's what we do in this game. The next step I'm doing here is I'm just starting to group up my 4-box, and so you can see them here: Kale SK, Kale Drew, Kale Charon, Kale Mage. getting them kind of organized. Apparently they are all bald, and so I'm thinking of some kind of cutesy name for this team. I don't know, 3 gnomes, 1 halfling, ankle biters anonymous. I don't know, whatever it is. The reason I went for short characters, of course, is that having short characters makes life a little bit easier when it comes to play, and I think that's important because shrink and not having shrink can be a little obnoxious, and having to get some form of shrink if you don't have it is kind of important, especially later on when it comes to both positioning and getting in and out of areas that have low ceilings. That's in fact why I just didn't go with the ogre right away. Instead, just going with a gnome shadow knight. That's why. Plus, you got tinkering. Oh, how cool. We're getting a look at these guys. I'm looking through here, just making sure the layouts are okay. In fact, I'm going to pick my a warrior layout that I had set up on a few weeks ago. Essentially, what I'm looking at is having hot bars that are in the lower left-hand corner. I'm sorry, in the middle, with a few other hotbar locations on the left side, and kind of splitting up the dialogue and the combat sections on the left and the right hand side. And so basically all the 4 characters will kind of look like this. It's nice because from a key broadcasting standpoint, I try to keep the windows in a relatively similar location, such that whenever I open inventories, whenever I accept quests and do a give to an NPC with all 4 characters at the same time, that it's relatively trivial to do so for all 4 characters at once. And you'll see that as I toggle on the broadcast on and off, that's what's happening usually, especially when I'm next to an NPC. So what's convenient too about EQ now is often the NPCs have some form of highlighted text, which allows you to then click that text with your mouse, or if you're broadcasting across that broadcast, and be able to trigger the quest dialogue action that allows them to share the quest. And so that makes life a little bit easy. And so now we start moving around. We're going to go to Arius and talk to him, get that stage completion, move onward, and basically just knock out one by one these different quest components for the basic training. And so while we go into that, I think I'm just going to shoot the breeze here a little bit about this build. I wanted to go for a somewhat caster-centric support build in an SK. I think there's a reason, of course, why there are a million SKs in Everquest and one of every other class otherwise, and that's just because SK group aggro, SK boxing, and boxing being relatively popular in EQ, just so good. There are many features that the SK has with regard to making life nice. Specifically pulling capabilities, snaring capabilities, right? So you're able to control the entrance and exit of combat, the ability to flop in case you do a bad pull. I think that those things alone are very nice. And then, of course, you get into all the life leech, the ability for him to heal, or the SK to heal themselves. Finally, the taps and all the different kinds of AE aggro and aggro modifiers that the SK has that you can then utilize. And so that all of those things come together to create a relatively powerful character that can serve as the center of a group box. Generally speaking, when you're playing with 4 characters or 3 or whatever number, having that much control over combat with one character makes the other 3 characters a bit easier to deal with, whether you want to micro them or not. As far as the other 3 characters, the mage, call the hero, good DPS, stable DPS between simple nukes, either with the of the many line, or honestly I'd probably use more direct damage rather than bolt style nukes, so I don't even have to worry about positioning. The of the many line though is really nice, because the SK has a pet, the enchanter has some form of pet, whether we charm or whether we just use the animation. And even the druid, I think, has some kind of pet, whether it's worth it or not, to max out of the many. So that's good for the mage, and yeah, whether I mention or not, call the hero clearly makes life nicer. You know, going through POK or stuff like that without call the hero is a pain, but once you do get call the hero, you want to get new spells, you just move your mage up, call the hero, and that's just wonderful. I mean, being able to just move your entire set, not having to go through stairwells and stuff, which tend to be a little laggy in EQ. As described in many videos, forums, whatever, auto follow is a bit of interesting feature in Everquest. You know, to the extent that they even warn you about falling into lava and everything like that. And one of the big issues, of course, is if your background FPS isn't set to at least 50, 60, 70, whatever FPS, it tends to lag and be very dependent on your background FPS. That's ever more exacerbated whenever you're multiboxing, because you're going to have background characters usually, and so make sure to set up your stuff so that it behaves. Now what we're doing, obviously is just finalizing, kind of getting set up. I'm not going to show this for all the other characters, but I am doing this obviously on all the other characters, as well as setting up assist keys, follow keys. One thing that's really helpful that I do is, and it definitely is something that's more relevant, I would say, to modern EQ, is the exploitation of the XTAR capability. So the extended target window gives you so much with regard to controlling persistency between the clients in terms of what target is what assist target is what, and so on. And the other thing that's also noticeable about it is it's fast. And I use that very much, in order to do auto follow, to do assists, all that kind of stuff, because it's pretty snappy compared to /tar space something or /assist space the character. I find it to be quite a bit faster. So this is kind of funny. I was doing this mercenary quest. So after you talk to Arius and you finish that quest, you get into a mercenary quest with, what the heck's his name? I can't remember his name now. But the dude we'll just see in a moment. He has you go out and kill a kobold. And I did get the mercenary. I totally forgot to hail the NPC during this process, and you'll see me go back, kind of spin around a little bit and think to myself, well, what the heck did I just do? Because I totally forgot to handle that part of this quest. We'll get to see a kobold get killed twice, but in any case, we're firing it up, letting the SK get a little bit of cycles in just to see a little bit of damage, throwing a spike out and all that kind of stuff to boost up the damage just a little bit. And so here's where I go back and I see the mercenary leader guy, Elias or whatever his name is, and then I realize, oh man, that's an Eligist. And I just realized that's like, oh darn it, I didn't do it right. So once again, I go back, I kill the NPC. In any case, though, this place is just fun. I mean, looking at the cavern, the structure that they built for this is pretty neat. It's kind of circa 2010s EverQuest, or maybe mid 2000s EverQuest in terms of the graphics, but so a little bit more modern, of course, than what you'd expect in the vanilla zones and the classic zones, all the way up to Luceland. But I found it pretty nice. I found it pretty fun to go through this. There's a certain zen to it, and it does take a little bit of time, but you do get some scripted, defiant pieces out of it, which is kind of convenient. So now I'm going to wrap up this kobold here, kill him, go back to Elias, turn in the quest, and get ready. Yeah, as an aside, I find that this is a lot of fun. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. I've been wanting to go through these characters and kind of take a methodical, slow approach to leveling and really build in a process to it. And having this little bit of documentation, on the side as I play these characters, I think it's going to be so much fun, regardless of how many people watch it or, and so on. It's as much as for me as hopefully as it is entertaining for everyone here. I think that the other part I'm learning a lot about is, the perfection is the enemy of the good when it comes to putting dialogue on top and voice overlays on top of these videos. And so I'm trying as best as possible now to just commit to single takes with with very much little backtracking, and provide that the verbiage comes out all right. There might be a few pieces of vocal filler in there, and I apologize for that, but I'll try to get better as I do these dialogue sessions and get more practice with them. So in any case, I'm going back now to Eligist and going to turn in those quests, or that quest, and now essentially I'm pretty much ready to start I'd say the first half, or the spider wing of Gloomingdeep Mines. So we transition here. We've got all of the box characters. I've got some of their spells set up, which I did in the background. I think everybody's like level 2 or level 3. Do some broadcasting, let you know they're all talking and nice. They're doing some dancing here. We turn around and we go talk to our first buddy here, which is Ratiz. This ranger has been attacking this guy AFK for I think at least 2 hours. I don't know if he's building skill proficiency or what, or he just forgot about leaving him there. So we pick up a quest here, which is going to be our first, I think, real group quest between everybody. It's going to be killing some rats, some bats, and some nests. Followed by we spin around and we go to his mate, which is, I don't know, Byron or Buren, whatever it is. And she wants us to go kill some spiders, pick up some silks, and away we go. What I'm going to do, kind of the format here, is I'm going to try to go through the quest. If there is anything really specific about the quest, these quests are obviously very obvious, but I'll make some comments about it. I'm not going to go through the entire kill chain for every single quest. I'll kind of show the first little loop, or whatever it might be, and any little things I've learned over the years, and just comment on them. And that was the advanced loot tool. So if you haven't played Everquest in a long time, I would say over 10 years, EQ has a looting feature now, which allows it to track the loot that you get from all the enemies and set filters on them, set automatic looting properties on them, and do stuff like that. And one of the reasons you see me just sitting here for a second is that I am quickly going through the other 3 boxes, adjusting their loot filter properties and accordingly, so that this works well. Essentially, I run KLSK as the master looter, and away we go. Now we've got to kill, I think it's 8 rodents, 8 rats, 4 bats, and we got to kill 4 of these nests. So we'll go through here, kill some rats, wipe out some bats and some nests. Another thing that I've done, generally speaking, with my keybinds is I have just a typical mechanical keyboard with a numpad on it. I will use the numpad to broadcast relatively specific behaviors to the other characters. So, for instance, my 0, 1, 2, and 3 key, they heal X-Tar 2, 3, 4, and 5, which is my tank and my, I think in order, my mage, my enchanter, and my druid. So I can kind of hammer those, and it'll cast the minor heal from the druid onto those characters. I kind of set it that way. My 5 key will be kind of a burn it all, and it'll pop all the cooldowns and do all the big DPS stuff later, which is a little less relevant at this stage of the game because you don't really have that many abilities. And then I essentially just have one spam key, and that's the 2 key. The spam key gets used both on the SK as well as all the other characters. And with those characters, I set up just typical assists. For the mage, it'll be some kind of X-Tar 1, and so that 1 in the extended target is for the tank's target, and so it'll automatically just be updating. Oh, here's poor Rufus. Big fan of mice here, not quite, but big joke in my household anyways, I hate mice. In any case, poor Rufus is just going to get blasted here. But the first name that we kill, so that's they're a huge achievement. Back to what I was saying, though, with the character broadcasting to the other DPS buttons that the other characters are hitting. So essentially 2 is going to be the spam that gets hit on everybody, and it'll just essentially be doing the X-Tar on each character, doing an appropriate cast or pet Q attack, those kind of things, so that it does damage. On the second quest here, after we finished up the bats, rats, and killing of the nests, we get into harvesting some Gloomingdeep silks, or one or the other. In fact, I get the wrong one here. It's in fact the Gloomingdeep cocoon silk. And so essentially, for this quest, I go around and manually send the loot to each of the 4 different characters, kind of in order where the SK is last. From there, I will go around in this kind of loop, which starts at this initial location with the silk that I just looted, and then across this bridge that we're going to go over a second, there's 2 more. You got to kill the spiders because they kind of get in the way. And then there's 1 more bridge to cross, and there's the last one over there. So essentially that's the loop that I take, and then I sit and wait. AFK, whatever. You can go kill some spiders, do whatever you want. The thing that was kind of neat about this, just, which is the greatest thing about MMOs, right? If this is a single player game, this does not happen. There was a barbarian beast lord, I think. She was fighting the dude that drops the rose, or tulip, or the hell the flower is that you gotta get. And I don't know what was going on, or Merc wasn't healing, or what. Maybe it was an apprentice Merc, free to play, something. But her HP started going down. I noticed this while a little bit after I was picking up these cocoon silks in between while I was waiting for respawns. I was just watching her go down to, I don't know, 40% health. I said, oh, what the heck? Hopped in with the druid, just spammed some minor heal on her. And you got a thank you from her, which is kind of neat, just out of the blue, some player interaction. Even though box crews tend to get a bit of a bad rap, I think, with regard to sometimes player interaction. I think there's some good things that come from this too. For me, the big motivation behind the box is that obviously you get to build your own crew yourself. EQ is not necessarily, I would say, the best solo friendly game. There are a few classes that can solo, of course. Necromancers, in my opinion, are the best of them, just with their incredible toolkit plus DPS. There are a few things even with the Necro that become just either not fun or just you can't even do them without other people. Things such as certain missions and so on. You need at least 3 people in your party. Some raids, when you do your 2.0, whatever, you'll need actually 6 and create a raid, or whatever the number is now. And then you can still do that, right? Whenever I get to that some point way in the future, I'll talk about that little trick where you just basically log in alts and you log out. As long as they're logged out, they don't count to the level, average level. In any case, so EQ, benefits from that, and given that I have, work full time, have a family, and so on, essentially, it's hard for me to commit to other people for groups at the moment. I do want to eventually. I'll probably join a guild, play with a guild, and so on. It's still having a bit of flexibility that I can play on my time. That's essentially, I think, one of the main reasons most folks box and EQ. And so after you finish, looting all that silk, you go back, you talk to the Vashir that's over, what's her name? It is Valara? Yeah, Valara. Something like that. And she's going to give you 2 pieces of Defiant gear. Woot, so that's pretty nice. Basically no effort for Defiant gear, which obviously is extremely powerful early on in the game. You'll get back stats roughly around, I don't know, the 35 level or so. I think that's maybe flawed Defiant gear. That'll max out everything at 255 until you hit the higher levels up at 50 plus, where you can start increasing those caps. And so we can see these beginnings with not capped stats. These are not twink characters, but they will be soon, just in a few tens of levels with pretty much 0 effort. Even if you were single playing this at this point, it'd be 0 effort because your Merc will carry you if you run a tank Merc all the way up to about 60 with pretty much being AFK. That's kind of the initial step. So what the little lag here is, I'm essentially going through all 4 characters, setting it all up, and now clicking give. And so all 4 fire at the same time. And I'm broadcasting the select options, getting their breastplate or chest armor across all characters. And away we go. So now we got a few new pieces of armor. we have to start the next set of quests, which will basically be the last section of this video. And so the last quests are going to be going to those 2 guards then, the 2 Ixar at the beginning entrance right there, where the ranger, I believe, may still be attacking them. Picking up some more spider kill quests, kill the spider tamer guy, Kobold. Pick up the flower there, and you need to do it for each character. Hit, there he is. Alaran Wu. Interesting. And so we're going to go to Rati's here and pick up these quests. Kill some spiders, pick up some arrows, and kill a big spider at the end. That's essentially the cycle of quests for this. I think it's about 4 quests. So while we get these next quests set up here, the thing I want to, I guess, mention is if you're going to be solo boxing this, or solo box, if you're going to be single playing this without any box, essentially I would probably pick up the tank merc. You can pick tank, healer, caster, rogue, melee DPS merc, and obviously do whatever you want. But the tank merc has several things that are amazing, right? They have a very early taunt, and you have to set them as aggressive with a little tank icon on them. Right click, make them a tank for the group. But the thing that makes them insane is they do reasonably good damage compared to the melee DPS up till 60. Their HP regen is essentially unstoppable, borderline unkillable until at least level 60. Perhaps if you go to the hole and you go deep to the bottom where the castle is and stuff with all the ghosts and the constructs and stuff, you might get the merc in trouble. But up until that point, he's pretty much invincible. I mean, he's just a beast. And so you go, you attack, doesn't matter if you're healer, caster, melee. Get in there, attack, back up a second, let the melee guy do his trick, and he takes control of the whole situation and away he goes. Switching gears here back to Spider Tamer Gugan, we're going to kill him, get that rose. We're essentially going to do this 4 times, and he does have at least a 5-minute respawn. So usually you want to kind of kill him early so that you can come back and kill him again and again and again, and n number of times depending on your box crew, assuming you're doing all the quests on all your box characters, which is what I'm doing. I'm going back here now and I'm picking up a barrel that has arrows in it. Fortunate for me, the first barrel I get has 4 arrows. It's as if the game knew. And I've never seen that. I've often got either 0, 1, or 2, usually 2 arrows from this thing, but the fact that I got 4 was a pleasant surprise. So I give that to the each of the characters individually, give it to the SK first, and then, as you can see, I'm kind of dancing them around a little bit. So while I'm doing that, I'll finish that previous line of thought about the tank. You know, you could, if you did go with the healer, obviously you can develop a little bit, maybe your defensive skills a little bit better, and that's fine too. You clearly play the way you want. If you do that, there are some really nice potions for tanking in this game, at least early mid-levels. Going mid-levels as in classic perspective. So in the 20s and up to the 20s and 30s, at least, you can get skin spike potions that hit really hard past level 15. I think they hit over like almost 90 points of damage or something close to that. Another trick is if you manage to land a damage shield on the merc, it does a lot of damage. It's similar. So you can, if you're a druid, I think a ranger, a bard, whatever, you can get a damage shield on the merc, and it's gonna hit the enemy really, really hard, and they're just gonna drop. And it doesn't take too long to get that to peak. I think it's something on the order of like the skin spike potions peak around for like a skin spike 1. They'll start doing 90 damage at like level 20, which is pretty nuts. Maybe it's 80 damage. As far as the casting the DS on the merc, I think it's pretty early. I mean, I didn't try it here, but you can try it out, experiment with it, and see what happens. And so now we're going along. We're essentially wiping out the remainder of the spiders. I think I'm at level there, which occasionally when you see an enemy go down, yeah, you can see everybody hit level 5 on the achievements thing on the combat or social log, non-social log there. With EQ, especially when you multi-box, and the way Iceboxer works, I think when leveling happens en masse, it tends to lock things up a little bit. So you'll see that happen occasionally, where you get the mob to like 2%, and then it'll pause for a few seconds. So we're going through, we're crushing some spiders. You know, I think the spider graphic is awesome. It's definitely different than what it was back in late 90s and the 2000s, that's for sure. They look mean now. So versus, I mean, they were mean before. And I remember being in Kunark, fighting spiders, and you know, in different locations, having that experience of wow, the graphics were amazing back then, and you know, and then I wouldn't claim to say that once 2003 or so came around, that Everquest, and considering the improvements they made, would really have that much better graphics, but it's kind of a ceiling at that point. However, the NPC models, I think they did put a little bit of effort, put quite a bit of effort on their side to make things look a little bit cooler, and you know, that's part of the nostalgia that I feel about this game. You know, when I'm playing EQ, you know, I'm looking forward to a slightly slower pace. You know, I'm looking forward to each enemy you fight is worth the effort, if you will, right? You know, whenever you're playing WoW or like a 14, or wherever you're playing, you know, modern now, in the MMO RPG side of things, you know, enemies, for the most part, especially just world enemies, they tend to be speed bumps. In EverQuest, you know, the thing that makes it, that delineates it from the other games, in my opinion, is that especially as you get to higher levels, and if you're not prepared for a certain class of enemy, and if your character's not built right in terms of its gear and its AAs and all that, but even then, if it is still built well, provided that you don't have ridiculous amount of raid gear, I guess, you can get destroyed very quickly by on-level mobs, just trash. And I've always thought that was awesome. I've always thought that trash being difficult in games, you know, not necessarily tedious, and I know there's some issues with highest end of the game, at least reading the forums about experience values and the trash, and you know, all that kind of stuff, wanting to grind, not being able to grind, versus quests and so on. But still, the fact that you can go out to an on-level center, and you're not pulling 50 of them, right? You're not trying to pull 50. You're trying to pull one. You know, you're trying to pull 2 or 3, maybe, if you got a good group going, whatever. Or you know, if you've got a really serious, like, good tank with raid gear, maybe you're pulling more than that. But still, you know, on level means a challenge, and I think that is the thing that always makes me come back to this game, makes me miss this game, right? You know, it's one of those things that drove nostalgia. I remember that when I was a kid back in the 90s, mid-90s, again in the late 90s, starting to play EQ, one of the coolest experiences, you know, first experience ever for me, right, was when Kunark came out. I somehow, by foot, got my way over to Furionovi, and you know, had to go through Freeport, take a boat, got lost in the ocean. Maybe it was Freeport, it might have been Butcher Block or Freeport, I can't remember at the time, but you know, take a trip and travel. And I knew if I died, I was going all the way back, you know, and that was the sense of both wonder, anxiety, and excitement. I mean, it was just all things in one, you know, where you got to go across, and everybody, I think, from that time, you know, onward, has those stories of where they did something new, or they did something cool that just never had been done before, you know, in a video game at that era. And I thought that was great. Or another example would be Kellethan, right? You know, you make a wood elf, the first thing anybody does as a wood elf in Kellethan very early on is they fall from the city, right? And you fall to your death, right? And you're like, oh no, there's no way that just happened. That was the expectation, right? EQ is kind of that, at least early on, EQ is that kind of raw RPG experience where you could do something stupid and die. And I think that was neat, right? And it helped foster a sense of community very early on, you know, even given the shortcomings of what we would consider now anyways, of user interface and all those other kinds of details, which at that time were reasonably fine, right? You know, you didn't have all the modern technologies, software technologies to do what we do now. I think that's about it. You know, we've gone through, we killed a bunch of spiders, got some gear. We're gonna go talk to Guard Hobart up here and Rap. I can't remember if I think he gives us a green potion and maybe some piece of Defiant gear. He at least gives us a potion though from saying hey to him. Oh yeah, a piece of Defiant gear too. And so I go through, you'll usually see me, I just get rid of these potions and stuff because they tend to clutter my inventory. Yeah, thank you for sitting through this. I hope you had fun with it. Really looking forward to making more of these. Again, taking a semi-slow pace at it and detailing the journey, you know, because that's for me is going to be part of the experience, you know, at where I'm at in life. You know, I'd love to raid, but raiding is kind of out of the picture with, you know, family, work, all those kinds of details. So this is something I find that, you know, I can commit to. So here's the characters. You know, once again, we've got that druid, enchanter, mage, SK. Gonna, I think, pull them aside one by one and do a cheesy wave at the end. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the team called 3 Gnomes, 1 Halfling. I'll start working on the next video probably tomorrow or sometime this weekend. Get the second half of the Mines of Gloomingdeep, where you go kill a bunch of kobolds, some goblins, and some two big bosses at the end. Actually, there's kind of 3 bosses because of the drink that you got to help out Flutterwing. And I'll, you know, as time goes on, I'll work on a little bit of this dialogue, make it a little bit cleaner. Thanks again. See you guys.